Hi, this is your last chance to practice for tomorrow or Friday the 13th. Quiz on naming and formula writing. 5 different kinds of things. You've got ionic, covalent, you've got transition metals, acids and bases, and hydrates. And all of them represent on the quiz. So here are the answers to this set. First one, when you're naming, you're looking for a metal or a nonmetal. Nonmetal means that you should use prefixes. Metal means you do not use prefixes. So when I look at this and I see cesium, well, cesium is a metal, so I'm not going to need prefixes. And cesium is a group 1 metal. Okay, so it's always +1, and I don't need to use Roman numerals either, so I'm just going to call this what it is, which is cesium. And CO3 is on the back of this sheet. It's carbonate, so it's called cesium carbonate. On the next one, if the first metal is a hydrogen, then you're dealing with an acid-base naming rules. Hydrogen equals, just acid rules. So the old name for this would be hydrogen bromide. This is called bromide when it's off the periodic table, IDE ending. So you apply the acid-base naming rules and you call this hydrobromic acid. If you don't get that, you can check the purple sheet, and there's plenty of examples of those on there as well, and the rules for naming acids too. Okay, so here is the third one. You can see it says CuCO3, and this dot 4H2O. This is what we call a hydrate. So at the end of this compound, we're going to have some water attached to it. We have to say how many waters, and we call it a hydrate. So first, this is a metal, copper, and that's carbonate, so we call it copper carbonate. However, the copper is a transition metal, which means it's in the middle of the periodic table, right here, and it's going to require Roman numerals. So the way that you figure it out is you look at carbonate, if you kind of mentally cut it in half, carbonate is a -2, and you find that right here, and then, which means that copper must be +2 to offset it to cancel it out, so it's copper 2 carbonate, and then don't forget the hydrate, so you say there are 4 of them, so tetrahydrate. This is chlorine, first one, it's a nonmetal, and nitrogen's a nonmetal, so they're both nonmetals, and that means you should use prefixes. So this is called hexachlorine, and then pentanitride. Finally, we've got a metal, manganese, and a nonmetal phosphate. So a good start would be manganese phosphate. And don't forget, manganese right here, middle of the periodic table, it's going to be a transition metal, so it's going to need Roman numerals. So you can figure that out one of 2 ways. You can reverse crisscross here, that works. Or you could say phosphate is -3, and there are 2 of them. That's what that 2 means. It's a total of -6, so this side must be +6. And there are 3 manganeses to get you up to +6, so you sort of take 6 divided by 3, which equals 2. So it's called manganese 2 phosphate. On the bottom problems, when you're writing the formula, you want to look for keywords, and there's a chart that you can use. There's some things here. If you see prefixes, do what they say. If there's no prefixes, you should crisscross. And the transition metals are going to use these Roman numerals. So, sulfuric acid is a pretty good hint that you're dealing with an acid. So you take H+, that's the first thing you cross it with for any acid, and you read the rule backwards. Sulfuric ends in IC. IC used to be 8 in the old rule, so I'm looking for sulfate. And sulfate's on the sheet here, and it's SO4, it's got a -2 charge, and you crisscross them and you get H2SO4. Tungsten 3 carbonate, the 3 is the charge on tungsten, so you would write W+3. Carbonate is on your polyatomic ion list, it's CO3, it's a -2 charge. The carbonate's on this thing. And you crisscross them, so you get W2, parentheses CO3, 3. Magnesium hydrogen sulfate looks like 3 things, but really hydrogen sulfate is 1 thing. and there's no prefixes, so I should be crisscrossing it. So magnesium is +2. Hydrogen sulfate right here. Hydrogen sulfate is HSO4 minus 1. HSO4 minus 1. You crisscross them and you get MgHSO4 2. Tetraphosphorus dibromide, there's your favorite one, because that one's going to include prefixes and you just do what they say. So you'd have tetraphosphorus is 4 phosphoruses. Dibromide is 2 bromines. Okay, don't reduce them, just do exactly as they say, you'll be fine. And finally, we've got ammonium phosphate. Ammonium is the only positive polyatomic. It's right here. It's got a +4 charge, sorry, it's got a +1 charge, NH4 +1. And there's no prefixes, so you should crisscross it. Phosphate, it's a -3 charge, 3 goes there, 1 goes there, and you would have NH4, C3, PO4. So there is your final look at how to name and write formulas, and your quiz on Friday the 13th will be spooky and will look just like this. Okay, bye!